Hey guys, Erin here with Southern Girl Exotics. Welcome back to my channel. So we're going to switch it up today. I want to do a care guide slash husbandry tip type video that is going to be on my RedFoot Cherryhead tortoises. I love these tortoises. I cannot stress enough what an amazing species these guys are. They're a good size, but not massive where I have no way to manage. And they're also not super tiny, so I got to kind of explore my hand at building outside enclosure for them, which I love. I am so pleased with it. But overall, these animals just have amazing temperaments. They're so inquisitive. They're so just interested in what you're doing. Definitely, I think that they kind of form a bond. It's probably more food motivated. However, I love that when they hear me coming, they do come towards me. They are interested in what I'm doing. We really do have a lot of interaction, and that is something that's kind of rare with a lot of reptiles. So these guys are amazing. I'm super excited to showcase them and kind of just go over how I keep them. Now, I don't keep any babies currently, so mine are adults. So most of the husbandry I'm going to go over is going to pertain to adults. The only difference is obviously when you're working with smaller animals, babies, hatchlings, you have to be a lot more diligent and a lot more precise when it comes to holding humidity, temperatures, etc., how you feed them. Once they get older, of course, they're a lot hardier. So I've tried to throw a few different tips in pertaining to having a hatchling or a young one, but for the most part, the care is the same. You just have to be more diligent and make sure that you're staying on the ball and keeping things a little more precise when you're working with babies. And naturally, babies typically, when people get babies, they're going to be raising them indoors in a tortoise table. Most of my husbandry tips, blah, 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 tips that I'm going to be showing you guys are going to be my outside enclosure. Nonetheless, if you've got a baby, it's eventually going to grow up and you're going to hopefully find this video informative and helpful. Either way, I love this species. I can't wait to fangirl over them in this video and show you guys all the things I adore about them because they are amazing. I've been trying to breed them for, this is the second year. It's pretty late in the season now, so I doubt that I'll be getting eggs this year, but they're mainly pets. If they give me babies, great. If they don't, that's okay too. We are just happy with having them as pets because that's how amazing they are. So yeah, I'm super stoked to have this video go out. I hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah, I'll see you at the end of the video. Thanks for watching. So I keep both Redfoot and Cherryheads. Cherryheads were believed to be purposely bred to be a smaller Redfoot, but that's actually not the case. These guys occur naturally in the wild in Brazil. Both are South American tropical species of tortoise. They are a medium-sized tortoise. Right here we have Piglet, my Cherryhead, and on the left is Winnie, my Redfoot. Now there's not a huge difference between these guys. Winnie here will get to about 11 to 14 inches. Piglet will get anywhere from 8 to 10. She's actually already at 10 inches. So cherry heads will be a little bit smaller. Winnie here has the pretty red feet that redfoots are known for. However, their heads start out cherry red color and then it starts to go to an orangey yellow as they grow. And then cherry heads have the pretty cherry head that they keep as they grow and still keep their pretty red cherry feet. So that is what has always drawn me to these guys. Other than that, care requirements are pretty identical, their temperament's pretty identical. There's a little bit of a difference on their shell color. Redfoots have more of a darker brown colored shell, and cherryheads have more of a blacker type shell. If they were wet here, you'd be able to see a difference, but really it's not a big enough difference to even mention. Now, because they are a medium-sized tortoise, you are going to need a large enclosure for them. When you're first starting out, you absolutely can do a tortoise table or a small or large aquarium, something like that for a baby. But after like the third and fourth year, you're going to have to upgrade. Once they become
probably 6, 7 years old, you're going to have at least an 8x4 enclosure. Now, whether you do that inside or outside, that's totally up to you because I have three of them. I wanted to do something big outside. So this is actually 24 feet by 16 feet. I've done a lot of work on this and I will probably still end up expanding it. Now they have plenty of room. They do a lot of walking. They get a lot of enrichment in here. It's plenty big enough for the three of them. However, as much as these guys walk and explore, I just feel like why not give them an even better life by eventually expanding it? So that is on the list. It is super important that if you're going to do something outside, they have plenty of hiding places. Even if you're going to do something inside, indoors, they need to always feel secure. Now, I just built this house for them. I believe it's 6 feet by 6 feet by 4, maybe 4.5. So I insulated the inside, got a doghouse heater we're going to try out this year on a thermostat, going to get their lights set up. There's Pooh. Hi, Pooh. He's my favorite. We'll get some hay and more soil on the bottom to insulate it before the winter gets here. But this year, we're going to try something new and move them outside permanently. They're just getting too big to bring in for the winter. So we'll see how it goes. Now, these guys are really temperature forgiving. These guys need temperatures to stay comfortable between 75 and 90 degrees. Now, they can handle temperatures up to, it gets around 110 here during like August here in South Carolina. However, as long as they have shade, as long as they have places to cool off, like their pool, as long as I'm misting the enclosure several times a day, they live perfectly fine and they can stay cool enough. Plus, they have their house they can retreat into. So they do absolutely fine and are very forgiving when it comes to hotter temperatures. When you get into the winter months, once we get into fall and it gets around 60 in the evening, as long as they can get their temperature up the next day to around 80 degrees, I don't worry about adding heat. Now, once the afternoons get up to 60 degrees and the evenings are in the 30s, they're going to have access to heat. These guys do not brumate or hibernate like other reptiles do. So during the cold months, they will slow down a little bit, but they still are very active, very alert, and they do not go into a sleep state. So it's very important they have efficient space during the winter as well. This is just a cool little clip right here. These guys are really good at self-maintenance. So here's Piglet filing down her beak on the cement. So I love watching her do this. I just think it's really cool that they're smart enough to know what they need to do for self-care. Love that. Anyways, back to husbandry. So these guys can really, really tolerate a high fluctuation in temperature. The main thing, like any reptile that thermoregulates, you can't let them get too cold. And so you're definitely going to have to make sure that night drops don't get below 55. And if the days are not getting 75 or above, you need to make sure they have access to a hot spot and heat to keep them around 80, 90 degrees. Now, these guys also, because they are tropical, need a higher humidity. Here in South Carolina and most of the South, it's humid as shit during the summer. So we have to have probably around 60 to 70% humidity. I mean, it's horrible here in the summer. However, luckily for me, I work from home, so I can still go outside and mist them several times a day. They love water. This species of tortoise absolutely loves when it rains. They love when it's misting time. They get so active and so excited. It also puts Pooh in the mood to make some love to his ladies, so he gets all kinds of wild and crazy when it's time to spray down the enclosures. But nonetheless, it's super important that you keep their humidity up. Now, these guys always have a telltale sign when their humidity is not right. Their eyes will water. So that is a good indicator if you see your tortoise, your redfoot, has really watery eyes. Typically, that can mean that you do not have your humidity high enough. Now, if they're mouth gaping, if there's bubbles coming out of their nose, that is more of a sign of a respiratory infection, which will also happen if you have too much humidity or not enough humidity. So, but if you see just watery eyes, typically that is your sign you need to up your humidity. I learned that many, many years ago, and I'm so grateful because I used to freak out every time I would see it. And now I know it is just my tortoise's way of saying, hey, mom, we need a good mist. Let's get this ball rolling. Now, with babies, you do have to be careful if you're going to keep their substrate very damp because more times than not, I see so many people that get shell rot on the bottom of their babies. I think if you're going to start with the baby, you need to make sure you have some type of humidifier, something that is keeping the air moist and not so much the ground moist. Let's talk about these guys' temperament. Amazing, amazing temperament for these guys. They are very, very chill. They're very, very inquisitive, curious animals, very, very sweet. I would like to think that Pooh loves me, but they are also very, very food motivated. So even though I think he definitely knows me, and when he hears me, he affiliates me with food and comes running out of his enclosure or his house. Um, I know it's probably food based, but it's very, very cute, and I love how sweet he can be. He loves head pets, he loves getting his butt scratched. These guys have a ton of personality. Like all reptiles, they're all going to have their own personality, but Pooh is definitely my favorite. He loves a good butt scratching. But their temperament is amazing. They don't love to be handled, but they absolutely tolerate and I think enjoy interaction. So as long as you're not picking them up, they typically flock to you. They are very curious about you. They want to know what you are, what you're doing, what you have for them. So I love that about their personalities and their just basic nature. So, yeah, they always think my toes are food. So you definitely have to be careful of that because those little beaks hurt when they get those toes. Nonetheless, amazing animals if you're looking for a tortoise that isn't going to clench up in its shell every time you try to touch it. These guys are perfect animals for somebody that really wants to interact with their tortoise and not worry about having to stress it out every time you come near it, like a lot of other species are. I also think these guys do amazing in groups. So that was another plus for me. I think that they enjoy interaction with their own kind. Of course, having a male and female, the male is going to drive the female crazy, especially during breeding season. Pooh is known for that. He absolutely obsesses over Piglet, even though he likes Winnie too, but not as much. Piglet's definitely his main girlfriend, but nonetheless, they do seem to really enjoy having some of their own kind to kind of sunbathe with, spend time with, and I love having social reptiles that do kind of a communal thing where they get along and do well. So, real quick, we'll go over their diet. One thing that was really attractive to me when picking out a tortoise was I love that these guys could actually eat fruit. Most other tortoises, especially desert dwelling tortoises, just don't do well processing fruit. These guys do great. Now, there are several different recommendations on how you can feed. Some people recommend you do like 60% greens, 30% fruit, 10% protein. Some people recommend you do 50-50 fruit to greens. So there's several different ways you can do your own research and figure out what works for you. I have been feeding my tortoises like this the last 5 or 6 years, and they have grown tremendously. They eat well, they have perfect color, none of them have been sick, so this is what works for me. So I do a base of greens. So they get like a salad mix plus collard greens, turnip greens. Sometimes we do kale, sometimes we do mustard greens. It just depends what greens we can find. And then I do 50-50 vegetable and fruit each feeding. Now I feed mine probably 5 to 6 times a week. It's almost every other day, but sometimes they'll get day after day. So I don't really have a set schedule. It's just kind of, I know they get fed between 5 and 6 times a week. You can do every other day if you wanted to. That would be perfectly fine. They also get Missouri tortoise chow. That is every other feeding, and then twice a month they get protein. So mine like a variety of worms, so I do different worms and slugs. But you can try mushrooms, you can try eggs. There's different things out there. Mine just don't particularly like that. But they love the worms, they love slugs. I love that these guys can eat a variety that during the winter I'm not having a hard time finding food, because that is another issue that a lot of tortoise owners run into during the winter months, because a lot of vegetables are seasonal, so it's hard to find certain greens if all they can eat is greens and you're trying to do a varied diet. Now, what works for me best by doing the 50-50 vegetable and fruit ratio each feeding on the base salad is these guys can also get finicky. If it was up to them, I would feed them worms 24/7. So sometimes they can get finicky about salad, but like most anything that eats fruit, the sweetness of it, it always entices them to eat their greens, even if I have a little bit of fruit in there. So I personally never have problem with any of them eating their food since I started doing the 50% greens, or I'm sorry, 50% vegetables, 50% fruits on the base of greens every feeding. So again, totally up to you. Do your own research on how you want to feed your animals, and figure out what makes the most sense to you. But this is what has worked for me. They have all grown tremendously, and like I said, I have no health issues out of them. Um, they're doing great. So yeah, figure out your own feeding schedule. But these guys have a huge list variety of fruits, vegetables, greens they can eat, and that for me is exciting. Feeding any of my reptiles is one of my favorite things to do. I just get exciting about the feeding process. I don't know why, maybe I'm weird. But so that was enticing to me when I was picking out tortoises. I love that these guys had such a variety that I could feed them. And let me add, even though mine are outside and they get sunshine directly from the sun, so they have everything they need to metabolize everything they're eating, I still twice a week sprinkle calcium on their feeding. I didn't do it this feeding, it just wasn't time. But I did want to add that. I do think you still need to add calcium. I don't do cuddle bones, so for me, calcium is just a good way to make sure that they're getting everything they need at every feeding, because again, they're not eating exactly what they would be eating in the wild. I also grow a lot of plants that fit their diet, like hibiscus, rose, and some other things that are growing, like hostas. In their enclosure that they can eat natural grass. I've made sure grows in there. So they are getting a big variety, but again, it's not exactly like what they're eating in the wild. So I think adding calcium a couple feedings a week is a great practice. And that's about it. These guys are really easy to care for. They're amazing pets. Once you've done it for a couple weeks, getting the hang of it is super simple. And once you own these guys and keep them, you're never going to want to go back. They're absolutely amazing pets. I couldn't imagine owning any other species of tortoise, and I just can't imagine that any other species of tortoise can compare to how amazing these guys are. Their personalities are just incredible. I just love, love, love these animals. And I think if you're ever considering a tortoise, as long as you have the means to provide for a medium-sized tortoise, these are the way to go. Cherry hoods and redfoots are incredible.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. This is just how I keep my tortellinis. You may do yours different, and that's perfectly fine. Ultimately, I just wanted to make a video showcasing a couple of other pets besides just geckos that I keep and that I absolutely love. I cannot stress it enough how much I love keeping redfoots. They are such an amazing, praiseworthy reptile. They are so much fun, and they really do deserve to be showcased and appreciated in our hobby. So that was mainly what it was about. If you did learn something, if I keep my tortoises in a way that you might want to aspire to, or you just learned something about husbandry, then the video was a success. or if you just found it entertaining. I personally enjoyed making it because I love videotaping my little tortellinis waddling around doing tortellini stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed, that has supported the videos by watching them, liking them, commenting on them. I'm so new to this, and anything that I start, I obsessively start. So I write currently, this is still so new, so I am always checking if somebody's watching, if I've gotten more subscribers, if somebody's liked the video. And so far it's continued to grow, and you guys have just been amazing, supporting my content, supporting my account, and definitely gave me a little pep in my step to keep working at it. Even though it's so brand new and I'm not expecting it to blow up, but I do like to know that there are more people jumping on that are enjoying the content. It really makes me feel like I should continue doing it and growing with the process. So thank you if you support and have supported by watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. Thank you. It means the world to me. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you on Sunday. Thanks again.